Hi, I'm Eleanor from Refuge Design Workshop. In these videos, I invite you to see spaces through a designer's lens, to notice the details and choices that make a space not just beautiful, but truly livable. Today, we're taking a closer look at a London flat designed by Beata Heuman. Had to look up how to pronounce her name. Beata Heuman. And I'm going to link her below so you can see the spelling. This is a really special space. It's a single open area plan. It's in a historic building. And this generous room includes the kitchen, the living, and the dining areas all in one. And what makes it work is the way she designed restraint into the kitchen palette, which allowed more richness and play and texture in the other areas. So let's take a look how she does it. Look at these cabinets. Especially, I want to draw your attention to the upper cabinets. They're arranged in two tiers of identical square modules. This repetition creates a rhythm without overwhelming the space. Sometimes when you have height, you want to use it, that's a good idea, but the upper cabinets can end up being so tall, it's as if they're going to come forward. So she broke up that top heaviness by creating two identical tiers of nice, generous squares, which is such a harmonious move. So not rectangles, but squares. Notice the symmetry above the range. Heuman balances the composition with a really clever detail. So there's a small shelf set on the left side. This is there to create visual equilibrium around the range hood, which is itself minimal, elegant, and also the same proportion as the cabinets. So this is a really clever detail using that shelving unit. This solved a visual problem with a functional element. This enabled her to create this symmetry with the range, so you get that full vertical effect. And here is the dining area looking into the other wall of the kitchen. And let's talk a little bit about the use of white in this space, because now you're starting to see some of the colors she's also incorporating. And the bold choice to me is the dominance of the white. She's got the white kitchen cabinets, appliances, walls, and ceiling, all sharing the same single color. And then look closely at that ceiling. Those extraordinary moldings are original to this historic London building. And sometimes people will highlight them with a contrasting color. But by keeping them the same white, it allows the architectural detail to speak through form rather than color. So you get the texture, and that's enough. It's a pretty big molding. It's a pretty good suggestion, or just something to consider for anyone who's got period details in their space. You don't always need to emphasize them with color. Sometimes letting them whisper it creates the larger impact. And if you're lacking in such fine ceiling detail, I don't have it in here. So one thing we could do instead is add a stenciled border, on the flat of the ceiling around the edge, or even just a border, a plain border in the same color, but make it a gloss. So those are some subtle ways to bring attention up. Generally we are exhausted by all the other minutia in the room, and we tend to ignore the ceiling, but don't forget the ceiling. Despite its compact footprint, this kitchen delivers exceptional functionality. So the work triangle between the sink, the range, and the fridge is compact. It's a pivotable space. You just can plant one foot, move around. And then there's also amazingly generous counter space, largely provided for by that peninsula that juts out into the room. This also doubles as a staging area for the dining space. So it's this really like a multifunctional zone. And this is exactly the kind of thinking you need to employ when you're working in a single room in an open plan space. This is the transition zone, and now it's also highly functional. Notice also how the backsplash and countertop are the same material. It's a kind of strong pattern, a strong, patterning of muted blue and gray and white marble. And by using the single material choice, she eliminates the number of visual breaks. So it keeps there's still interest, there's still a visual interest. The eye is drawn to this patterning in the marble. And at the same time, it's consistent. It's just one element instead of multiple elements. And it makes a small kitchen feel more cohesive. It makes a small kitchen feel larger. It's just a really nice restrained choice. And this is where Heuman's design genius is really revealing itself. This kitchen exists within this larger room, and so we're starting to see that here with the dining area. And here's another one also of the dining area set a little further back. These spaces now are brought up, they're where you get the sort of energy of color, of texture. The blues and greens are so vibrant and fresh. And now you have these zones, you have these levels of activity in discrete different zones, and they become distinct in of themselves while also tying together as a cohesive whole. And the kitchen's restraint is what allows the other areas to, pop up a little bit more brightly without making the space feel chaotic. This white kitchen acts as a kind of visual palette cleanser. It provides breathing room in what could otherwise feel, like just too much and clutter, and it's got this occasional flourish, and the kitchen is definitely going to have more going on than what we're seeing in this staged photo. So we want to also keep that in mind. It's just like these notes in the kitchen, as well as the plates along the ceiling line, these create just enough visual cohesion with the rest of the space. So what can we learn from this London kitchen? First, repetition and uniformity can create calm rather than monotony when executed with thought. Second, the architectural details don't always need emphasis. Sometimes integration is more elegant and is going to have a better impact. And in fact, you get more of the textural element when you allow it to sort of be the same color as the rest of the space. Third, in the open plan living, different zones can have different personalities, and restraint in one area can enhance richness in another area. That's the main takeaway today. Thanks for joining me for this closer look at thoughtful design. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another space that balances beauty and real-world functionality. Until then, I'd love to hear, how do you balance simplicity and richness in your own home? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time.